All right. So Palenque. These were taken in 2004, and it was the first real trip, or my first stop, I should say, around the my tour around the Yucatan Peninsula at that time. Again, 2004. I was in Mexico visiting family, and to full disclosure here, I was in Mexico for my father had just died. So we were in Tabasco, and some of these images start off in my dad's old home, and just outside of Cardenas, Tabasco, visiting my grandma. And my grandfather had passed away maybe, no, I don't know, 5, 6 years before, but grandmother was still alive at the time, along with, and my aunts and uncles stopped by, a couple of them anyway. So the first images here are of that house, and the house is now at that time in 2004 made out of concrete. But when I visited the house for the first time in 1986, it was still made out of sticks. The front porch there still had that aluminum siding roof. And I don't know if I got any shots on the inside of the house. I can't remember just yet. But the roof is it wasn't complete. It's not a full roof. It's still made out of beams, and it still has aluminum siding. And actually, you will see that in a picture pretty soon. There's no running water in the house, and electricity by 2004. Electricity actually no, there was electricity in '86. And they were excited because when we visited in the summer, they had just that year added electricity to the house. It's very hot in the summer. This was November when I visited, so it's beautiful weather in November. Still humid though. The kitchen is basically open air in the backyard. The stove is basically a stack of bricks, and there's firewood, and you throw a pot on there. Again, there's no running water, so you at that time in 2004 you had the pump. So it was still go back and start pumping. And the backyard is just acres and acres of the cocoa plant. It's just where the plant you used to make chocolate. And it is, I think that they ended up selling it since then. I don't know the history. It's kind of sad, but chocolate isn't as lucrative as it once was. So slowly but surely they started taking over and planting other things, or maybe even using the land for cattle. But it's not as big a chocolate factory anymore as it once was in the 40s and 50s, where that's all they ever lived by. And you would just go back and start cultivating and harvesting these plants from the cocoa plant, these cocoa trees. In 2004, they had my dad had visited in 2002 or 2003, something like that, and he helped them build that big tower to put the water tank on top, so that they would have something along the lines of running water. But again, it's just a tank that fills up, and I think you can flush the toilet, which is that outhouse right there. But again, this is the kitchen area in the back, and I think that's the washing area as well, for washing clothes and washing your dishes. They had just got a microwave when I got there, and everybody was kind of excited about that. The flooring at one point in 1986, the floor was still dirt. And so the tile when we got there in 2004 was relatively new. But again, if you notice, the roof is not unfinished there. The house is pretty nice. It's this is the one with the bike and the people. That's the front porch, as it looks out over the dirt road, and it's got a pretty big backyard. This is the front yard, and there's more cocoa plants and coconuts. Actually, they have a huge mango tree, and they have a banana tree, a couple of banana trees there too. It seems like every plant there grows something, and it's just the beautiful weather when it's not stifling hot. But it's just gorgeous country out there. It's wild. The birds are crazy. The bats are running around everywhere, and the mosquitoes are out of hand. And actually, the before I went to Palenque, I did go to Comalcalco, which is basically up the road from where my father grew up. I did go there, and that'll be coming soon. But Palenque is where I started off on my own. I grabbed a bus from Cardenas to Palenque. I spent the night, and then the next morning I got up and went around and walked around this place. It's really, it really is magical. There's really nothing that really close to it. I tried to explain it in some way where when I was a little kid, and you go to Disneyland, we used to wake up at the crack of dawn so that we could be at Disneyland by 8. So we used to wake up like at 5 in the morning or something like that to beat traffic to go up to Disneyland from San Diego to Los Angeles or Anaheim, and really, get there in time. We'd stop by and have breakfast before we would go into the park. And, I was always very anxious, very excited as a kid. And when you see the Matterhorn for the first time, you get this really exciting feeling in your stomach where, oh my God, I'm getting ready to see Mickey Mouse. I'm getting ready to go in and enjoy and have an awesome day. Well, that feeling was gone for a long time, and I didn't get it back again until I started visiting these sites. There's this really magical feeling and this excitement that happens when you just start to come over the bend, go across the hill, go on the road, and you start to see the ruins, and it is just gorgeous, and you get this feeling like, oh my God, I'm about to see something amazing. Calakmul was the most exciting to see. There's a trail that you have to walk through. There's howler monkeys. There's these huge birds just walking around that are almost scary. And that's where I got the biggest feeling the most. And you can, when you get onto the other side of the peninsula, when you're going up the road, let's just say from south to north to Tulum, there's a couple of ruins there too that are very small, but just as magical. And you can see them from the side of the road, which is fucking amazing. But Palenque is probably one of the most famous in Mexico, maybe second to Chichen Itza. And it's very well known, very well documented. Its history is really amazing. I'm not going to talk about the history. You guys can look that up. But to walk around the ruins in this place, to see how well built it is and how it's standing after so long, I was really interested in grabbing detail of the stonework and the rocks more so than the overall place, because there will be better photographs of Palenque that I took. There will be people set up with a tripod and set up with these great cameras, and at this point you can take digital camera. At that point I was still shooting on film. There was nothing digital about me in 2004. And I was just thinking about this the other day. I jumped on the digital platform in a very strange time. It was right in the middle of people starting to transfer over to digital. And there was even talk at that time about digital not really being good enough to ever take over film. And we kind of believed it at that time. And I just loved black and white film, and I've always have. And there was no way that, I probably was in that camp to where I'm thinking, you know what, I'm probably not going to be a big digital user, which ended up being not so true. I'm pretty huge on digital now, especially video stuff. So if I went back to Palenque, it'd definitely be more video work somehow. But at the same time, it's just the thing with Palenque is that I don't think they let you walk in there with a large format camera and a tripod and just willy-nilly walk around. I think now you do have to pay a little extra to go in if you're going to take pictures. but there is a limit. I think you can take small cameras or smaller cameras, maybe even get away with a medium format camera, but I don't think they'll allow you without a special permit to go in there with professional type equipment. So uh, these days and age, to take a great film camera, I would love to do it with a large format camera to get even more detail on it. As you will come to find out and even notice in these photographs, I'm not real big on capturing a whole lot of dynamic range. I'm not real big on capturing and having a perfect film photograph that's dirty free. I shoot film because I love film and its grit. But if there is something that I do want to shoot clean, it would be shooting Palenque in a large format camera so that you can see the details in some of these and the reliefs in some of these carvings that they did in the side of the mountains and what have you. Palenque is a lot bigger than just the ruins. You walk around. There's a tomb. I don't think when I went here, you can go inside and visit the tomb. I don't think you're allowed to do that anymore. But when you walk around the ruins, there is these waterfalls that are just amazing. They're gorgeous, and they are a must see to where you understand, okay, that's why they built this place here. Palenque, which is, I don't think it's its real name. Its real name means running waters or falling waters or something like that. Again, you're going to have to look that up. This isn't the History Channel. This is just me showing off some pictures here that I took while I was there. And the photographs here, at this time, I wasn't developing film on my own, and I certainly wasn't using Rodinal to develop the film. I used to take them to the shop in downtown San Diego. It's a tiny little shop on the outskirts of the big mall that they have down there, and it's kind of weird where it's set up because it's where it was set up. It's not there anymore. And it seemed like it was this older man with his two daughters running what would end up being probably the last of it. Within the next, I'd say within the next 5 years, they had closed shop. But I remember thinking that, I got something, and it's one of those where I take my film to go get developed and then, see what happens later on. And I remember thinking, man, I hope I got something good. And I love most of these photographs. Again, just for nostalgia's sake. And some of them are, in my opinion, pretty good and show off more of what other photographs that you see from ruins don't see, which is something that I really like. And I remember showing up and picking up my images. And I developed a few rolls before, and it was very inexpensive, I remember. And they used to actually give you for like under $10, you get your film developed, and you would get a contact sheet with, a contact sheet is a print with all the images on that single 8x10 or 8x12, and there's basically little pictures of your entire roll. And in those days, it was just very inexpensive. In those days, yeah, shit, I guess it was 17 years ago by the time I got these things back. And I remember he'd never say anything to me before in these roles that I would take in, and, I would shoot my smut on them or whatever, some bands and this, that, and the other. But this was the first time when I started going back and collecting my first set of rolls. He's all, you have a lot of very interesting images there, young man. And I remember thinking, awesome. I'm excited. I can't wait to see him. And to be honest, at that time, my scanning wasn't really as streamlined as it is now. I was still working on figuring out how to use the scanner, which I still have. The scanner is amazing. My problem with the scanner is that it's using something called a Twain driver, and that driver is obsolete now, so I can't use that scanner with the current version of Windows and the current version of, not Windows, Photoshop. And I have an old version of Photoshop that I never updated on an old computer that is starting to kind of fail on me. The computer is. So when that computer fails, I will have to figure out how I'm going to scan the through Photoshop my images. I don't like any other program out there right now that to scan images. The Twain driver, the Canon box was amazing. It's good. I know how to use it, and it's easy to use. And these scanning pictures out there, it's really it's going to be difficult for me to transition into scanning these new images that I have once my computer breaks down. I'm going to try to figure out how to scan my images with my camera, essentially take pictures of the images and invert them in Lightroom, which is probably the way that I'm going to go. But that's kind of, I don't know, it just doesn't seem to be as good as a scanner, but we'll see. It's probably better, to be honest with you, as I go over and transition into a new phase. But these images, it took me a while to finally see the glory or the beauty in a lot of these images, because I would go through the contact sheet and essentially only scan the pictures that I thought were good. And then finally, about 2 years ago, I decided, you know what, I'm going to go through my archive and I'm going to scan and rescan every single photograph, because at this point now I was very comfortable and knew how to use my scanner properly. And I just decided to rescan the whole deal and rescan every single photograph on all my rolls just to see what I missed. And I'm so glad I did that. Through being able to not just scan them, but I am able to, with Lightroom now, actually bring out more of the image that was there that I didn't see originally. So I'm very glad that I did that. It was a pain in the ass, but I suggest if you guys are in the same situation that I am as far as going through your archive and trying to rescan or re-edit your photographs, do it. It's funny because my friends, they helped me build my PC, and I keep talking to them, and I might have mentioned this before already, but I'll say it again. They don't appreciate how much memory I need in order to have access to it immediately. I'm always trying to get ideas from them to see, what would be the best way to do it, what kind of external drives, or would working with a network drive be better, because at that point of the size of it, they make network drives way bigger now than when I first got it. And they actually make external drives way bigger now than the first network drive that I got. But they just couldn't see the fact or why I would need so much memory to be readily available instead of archiving it. And it's just exactly for this purpose. In order to go back, I know more about editing photographs now than I did when I first took these images. So I can go back and re-edit the images in such a way that they are better. You can see them. They have better detail in them, and they're a better size. And I've done this with my modeling photographs, with my band photography. I just finished doing it. And of course, I am going through the Mexico archive here and re-editing the photographs in a way that are better to be viewed. And even some of these might need a little tweaking, but you know what? I can probably invert these and print them out and make decent platinum palladium prints out of a couple of these, which is eventually what I'm going to go into with my photography, is make digital negatives out of them and basically make a big contact print and start printing some of these out, because I think that they're worth it. There's a couple in here alone in Palenque that I would just love to have as big prints. Besides just the snapshots and showing them online or something like that. Some of these are worthy of it. And you get to, you look at these places and you really just, you get to wondering all these questions that are basically the cliche questions. What were they doing here? How did they build this? And why did they leave? And, you sit on these stones and you touch the stones of the same people that touched this hundreds of years ago, in some cases, maybe a millennia ago. and you walk the same steps that they did, and it's just amazing. El Tajín in Papantla, Veracruz, is also a very, very magical place. That's probably my second favorite after Calakmul. Calakmul is just absolutely amazing, but Palenque is up there as well. I like Chichen Itza, and the problem with Chichen Itza now is that I think a lot of it, if not most of it, is closed off. You can't walk around in some of the places that would seem amazing. I went to Tenochtitlan. That was pretty cool. The big pyramids outside of Mexico City. And, or Teotihuacan. Damn, I get those mixed up. I'm sorry. And they're great. And the problem is, of course, that there's a lot of people there. The most magical places are these little sites that are just as gorgeous. Things like Chipojil, Hormiguero, Bacal. These are small sites. There's hardly anyone there, and they're just as majestic. I was lucky to go to Calakmul very early in the morning. There was no one there. I was the first one in the park. And I had the place all to myself through most of the day, and it really is amazing. Again, there's just wildlife and howler monkeys everywhere, and toucan salmons running around, and it's just a beautiful, magical place where the jungle is still more or less in charge of that place. But Palenque, hey man, Palenque is definitely a must stop. And if you haven't gone, it's not on your list, you gotta go. I would love to go back and check it out with different eyes, and hopefully get as much access and availability to take photographs that I had when I walked around here. I'll tell you this though. One of the things that I do appreciate about digital photography and some of these cameras is that they weigh less. For some reason, I decided it'd be a good idea to take my backpack with a bunch of lenses and 2 camera bodies around it. I'm like, you know what? If I had to do it all over again, I would take a tripod if they let me bring that in, and 1 camera, 1 lens, and that's it. A 24 to 70 millimeter lens, 1 camera body, whatever it is, and have at it, and maybe a little video camera as well. I think you can get away with a point and shoot camera. The Sony ZV-1 looks really good, and if you do like hyperlapse photography, I think that would be good for that. And it would be probably good if you do like HDR type photography, where you start stacking the pictures and really get a nice detailed image. That's the advantage of digital. Anyway, this is my Palenque set. I think I have a couple other color photographs too that I forgot to include on here, but I'll put them on the next one. All right, this was this episode of the Common Rule Visual. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll catch you on the next one. Enjoy your youth.